So welcome, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our board meeting, and it's a very important week that we as a division are acknowledging here in our division with our Truth and Reconciliation Week. I just wanted to spend a bit of time prior to our land acknowledgement just kind of discussing as a board and a division the importance that we do place on truth and reconciliation. Our division had the opportunity yesterday to have our flag raising ceremony out front of our division office, and just an opportunity for us to get our rocks. And our orange rocks, are a symbol for us to remember and recognize and acknowledge the importance of the work that we all do and the actions that we all take on our pathway to reconciliation. Our schools are all participating in the pathway to reconciliation, and as a division, we will be having ceremonies across our division at schools as well as here at our division office on Thursday, where we'll be placing our rocks in different places depending on the site of what they're going to be doing with them. But it's more than just this week. It really is about what we do with our actions after this week, and ensuring that we all do play a role in truth and reconciliation, ensuring that we move forward and we support our Indigenous community, and that we all need to be taking steps towards truth and reconciliation. So with our land acknowledgement today, I'd like to acknowledge that we have a lot of important work to do today, as we do on all of our board meetings, and that we need to acknowledge the land of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pay respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future, while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. Lethbridge is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. With that, I'd like to move forward with our first item, which is approval of the agenda. Craig.
I'd like to just add one thing, and I'm not quite sure where it would go, but since we now belong to the Public School Boards Association, I would like to just bring up to date some things that have happened over the summertime. I'm not sure where to put this, and I forgot all about it.
That'll go under board chair report. 10.1.3.
Okay, thank you. And I would then move adoption of the approval of the agenda.
And that's Christina. Additional.
So you're able to add the link data. Yep. I'd like to add an agenda item, non-union compensation. I think maybe 8.3. So I'm trying to have a look.
So we're underwear?
Maybe 8.3. Yes, 8.3.
All right, Chris.
Any further items? So the motion is to approve the agenda as amended.
Yep.
Okay. No further discussion. Those in favor? And that's carried. So next we do have a number of minutes to get through. So the first set of minutes is from our June 27th meeting. A motion to pass those. Right?
At the end of the minutes, just before adjournment, I think the word discuss was, I didn't mean discuss in that sense. It was just to go over the evaluation of the superintendent at a later date. So I'd like to strike the word discuss now.
Okay. Any other errors or omissions? Seeing none. Looking for a motion to pass those minutes as amended. Andrea?
My motion to pass the minutes as amended, June 27th.
Any further discussion? Those in favor? And that's carried. Our next set of minutes is from August 3rd from our special meeting. And looking for the errors or omissions. Seeing none, a motion to pass those. Christina, and those in favor? And that's carried. And our last one is from September 13th for our organizational meeting. Are there any errors or omissions? None, looking for a motion. Christine, Light, because you're the only Christine on the board, sorry. And in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And there's no business arising from minutes, so we'll move on to our Associate Superintendent reports and first business and operations.
Great, thank you very much. The report is in your package, and so I'm going to supplement in a couple areas from new items that I'd like to draw your attention to. So first, under facility services, over the summer, we were able to get the area prep for the 3 Chinook modulars and get those 3 old 2010 modulars put on site at Chinook, and then of course, it'll take probably 2 to 3 months to get those fitted up so that they're ready for occupancy, hopefully by January. At Coalbanks, we got the area all prepped and ready to go, hoping to have the 1 classroom and the 1 washroom unit arrive in September, to find out that they haven't even been put on the line yet to be made or built, constructed. So we are in a queue, and so we're hoping we'll get those sooner than later, but that has put a delay, and then we'll be running into weather. So where we were hoping to have them ready for January 1st may not happen till close to the end of the school year, which is unfortunate because that school needs them now, that classroom now. So that is a delay. These things happen. They had some a number of items with the modular classrooms that didn't work as intended this year. There was such a big batch that they put through 2 years ago from the province with 1 provider, and so that's caused some delays. Next one is Gary Station. Our new school is in the hands of Alberta Infrastructure right now because they'll be managing the project. And at this point, they're getting close to putting out requests for proposals and interest from contractors. And so that'll be occurring in the next month or so. I have updated the community engagement website. I should say Garrett updated the community engagement website where we have a section for Gary Station School, and there are pictures of our architectural renderings of the outside of the school on that website. I have also posted that link to the Gary Station Community Association so that they can also, because I promised to keep them up to date, so that they can see what's going on. And we're hoping to get some renderings for the inside. That is not covered under the Alberta Infrastructure contract with our consultant, but we're going to pay a little reminder just to get a couple of renderings of the inside because I think it's going to be beautiful. I'd like to show off what we're planning to do. October 18th, Danielle and I have a meeting with our Alberta Do
you want to wait for questions?
Oh, is there a question? Sorry.
I've been over there, but I can't figure out exactly where to, give me a kind of perspective. There's a new assisted living development.
Yeah, so the assisted living level would be like over here and our school's over here. So if you go into Gary Station and you go to the right.
So past the assisted living.
No, you don't go even near the assisted living.
Okay, well, so this
You go to the right, follow that road down, and then you would have the kind of the traffic circle. It'll go around and it goes to Old 30th Street, which is now they're building Abitibi,
Okay.
where that construction is. Our school is on Kensington, which would be after you just kind of pass the circle, there's a road to the right. That's Kensington Road. I believe it's probably blocked off. And then it's on 30th. So that corner, you'll see the
So
big,
that area where they're putting all the infrastructure.
putting all the infrastructure in. Yeah, they're building spaces to put in some lots, the developer, and so they're getting it all ready. So October 18th, our education manager from facilities branch of capital planning is coming down to meet with Daniel and I to talk about capital planning. And we're going to take him on a tour of some of our important projects, particularly Galbraith, as it relates to our modernization. We're going to tour him through Chinook because we want to show them how full Chinook is. Not Chinook, sorry. Coalbanks. Thank you. Coalbanks. And take them through Coalbanks. And we're going to take them around to show them Westminster and Buchanan because they're also on our list, on our modernization list. We're going to take them to Victoria Park, show them that project, and we'll have a good conversation about where things are at. And again, our education manager is very good at supporting our projects and putting them through as priority. Particularly, I know Galbraith has been put through as a priority project. So the last couple of years, so it's just a case of somebody giving us some funding for that. And then, yeah, I talked about the rendering of the station. So that's that. Finance, year-end has started. And the new year has started, and so we're preparing our accounts, and we shut down our system for what we call cutoff for the year end, and we're working on preparing the financial statements and doing our reviews and whatnot and analysis. We had our audit committee yesterday. That report will appear in next month's board agenda, and we did talk about with the audit committee, the enterprise risk management risk matrix that's been developed, and they're going to review that in November, and that will come to the board in December. And health and safety, well, we're always working on safety and have our courses out to our staff. There's nothing new there. Technology is always a whirl with lots of activity. They have been in the last couple of days in training related to IT security. We've had some penetration testing done on our systems by an outside consultant. He is actually in Finland working with them, looking at possible vulnerabilities and what we need to do to strengthen our systems. And it is, it feels like I'm always talking about IT security and the vulnerabilities of our networks and systems, and it is a constant item that we're working on in IT. And there's requirements that also we need to meet for insurance. Transportation, Southend continues to train more and more drivers to make sure that they're trying to keep ahead if they can of absences and drivers leaving. I have to tell you, when I was on my insurance marketing trip, I was with representatives from Calgary Public and Edmonton Public, and they have constant concerns all the time with buses being incredibly late because of drivers calling in absent. And so we're doing pretty good because our scheduling is doing not too bad this year. There's always little hiccups, but we're much better than we were last year at this time. So report on that. And then the other matters I want to talk to, of course, one of the big events, of course, we had here at the end of the school year was our education center flood. The human resources coffee pot had enough and decided to blow a gasket or blow a line, and then water leaked down into the purchasing department. And so we've got great people who were right there on it and to mitigate. And, we've been able to replace the floors in purchasing and do some work there, and then we'll be replacing the floors in HR at a convenient time for HR, because right now it's not the time to displace them. And so that was some fun and excitement that we had in the building. Also, something interesting and not new, but there is a new bylaw going into effect January 1st for recycling and organics for commercial enterprises, of which we're considered commercial. And we will need to make sure that we have the ability to do blue bin recycling as well as organics in our schools. And so we will be working with the schools department and our schools to come up with what is the best practice to have those kind of bins in our schools and make it convenient for kids. Part of the bylaws, we have to actually train our staff and students. There's yearly accountability on what we've put in place in our training that we're doing. So there's a number of items, all good stuff because it's good stewardship. And so I'm hoping we can develop some best practices by working with our schools and our administrators, our caretakers, see how can we, one, build stewardship in our schools and also make it so it's not very, not onerous on our caretaking staff. So it's not just one more thing they have to worry about. That's it. That's great.
On the education center plan, that would be mostly covered by insurance.
It could be potentially, we have a fairly high deductible, but then it is over, it's likely over, we're still adding up the cost. It's likely over our deductible, but we determine at what point over the deductible we claim insurance, and usually they suggest unless it's almost double your deductible, you don't claim because the impacts to your ratings. Like right now, we're in a discount because we have no history of claims, right, for our property, which is great. So putting in one claim could impact that. It might be more costly over the long term than the extra 25,000 or deductibles 25,000.
The other question I have, it's on the new recycling. That'll take place inside, then they have to move the containers outside.
Yeah, so we will we have to work to get probably different bins. Right now we have cardboard bins. So we'll have to work with a hauler to change those bins out to like a blue bin type. And then we'll have to work with a hauler for the actual organics. So maybe the same contractor, maybe a different contractor. And then that's part of the process is determining what does it look like getting it from inside the school to outside of the school. And how do we, again, make it, or we have to make it easy and convenient so people will use them, and easy and convenient for getting it to the actual bins for hauling. I'm not worried about the hauling piece. I'm worried about the logistics and the strain on our.
And I would be worried, especially late, early fall and June, is that wasps and bees, and that's just another potential area of getting stung. So that would be my concern. And I don't know if the city's ever thought about that or not, but that's a concern when you have a lot of people around and a lot of stuff.
So they're concerned now, and so we always have to watch out for that.
Be greater concerns for you.
Thank you, Christine. Any questions? Andrea? I just noticed that your welcome back breakfast in your report, and I heard all really great feedback. Visit with people from other schools, and that the food was rich.
Except for your pancakes.
Christina's pancakes were the best.
Yes, they were.
Perfectly symmetrical.
Very good.
Excellent. Thank you, Christine, for your report and all the work that your department does. Next is Instructional Services.
Just one quick thing before I start on my report. I did drop this book off with you, Start Here, Start Now. I thought it'd be a really valuable resource for you, given that each of our admin teams are reading this book right now and connecting to anti-racism, anti-oppression work, and just a really great quick read with some very foundational concepts that will assist you in understanding how that applies in our school settings. And I just, actually Karen Rancier and Kaylee King initially read this book. And as I started to work through it, I thought, wow, just some really simple concepts. It's not as scary or as intimidating as some of us may sometimes feel it is. And this work is really great in that, start here, start now. It does give you lots of simple little strategies. And I thought it'd be great for the board to be in alignment and understand when principals, have those conversations with you that you also will know where they're coming from. So I just thought this would be a good little gift for you to read. As you can see in my report, pretty busy month. And I can't believe we're almost done our first month. It's been a fabulous start for the first time in a full year. Instructional Services have had all of our management in place and some great new energy, fabulous ideas. You of course all got a chance to meet Joel Tailfeathers at our last meeting, but also Jen Day and Jackie Fletcher. Our director and our director of inclusive ed and our coordinator for counseling, a great new couple of additions to our team. As you can see, lots of PL going on for curriculum. Karen and her team of lead teachers have been very busy, providing lots of opportunities for learning early on, getting ahead of the curriculum piece. Few little updates with regard to physical and education wellness. We'll be offering a PL for administrators in October so they can start to get their teeth into physical education and wellness. And I think that's a long awaited opportunity for us where we can really do some deep dives into looking at how we support activity and wellness in our schools. And then, of course, we'll be scaffolding out to our health champs and other teachers. Starting our fruits and veg program again in October. You know that has a special place in my heart. Early education, as you know, there is a slight decrease to the number of programs being offered. Quite simply just sustainability and maintaining the quality of programming, as well as the increase in our PUF students, has really impacted the number of neurotypical students we can provide spaces for.
Great, go ahead.
I just need to know what BBT.
Building Brains Together. And so last year, what we did is we offered an online option, and Better Brains Together is a partnership between the university, early learning research team and ourselves. It has been long-standing, my goodness, 7 years now, I think. And really, they were the founders of supporting full day kindergarten and all of that really great ACE work in building a deeper understanding of better practices in our early education classes and what works for kids.
And at home they can get that.
Well, no, we called it Better Brains Together and it was at home because we offered a specific program that they teamed with one of our staff members to provide. Right? And so online, as you can imagine, most of our early education programs, kindergarten programs, you could ask our early ed aficionado across the table here. Kindergarten has traditionally looked quite a bit different from our other programs, our grade 1 through 12. I think what we're finding as we move out of the pandemic, grade 1 through 8 at very least are starting to say, hey, kindergarten had some good ideas around getting people outside, getting kids moving, learning in a centers approach. And so Better Brain Together was really a founder in helping our schools move forward to that and building a deeper understanding of better practices for, I think, whole child development.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thanks.
Yeah, just tap my shoulder, guys, if I use too many mnemonics. Dual credit, rah, we got 50,000 from the government. That was a pretty big celebration. And so Zone 6, Horizon, Livingston Range, Westwind, ourselves, and say Holy Spirit. Anyway, we've got 5 school divisions working together and partnership to really work closely with Lethbridge College to promote trades. We do have an evening coming up on September 28th, and hey, that's tomorrow. Lots of parents and teachers and students have registered for that and are really keen on seeing what Lethbridge College has, both for facilities and programming in the trades. We have our nurses back in our buildings. That's a big hurrah. We've had 3 years of them not being with us because of the pandemic. And so, where are they? Big Park and Churchill are hosting them in the fall. And then we're hopefully hosting another cohort with Chinook and LCI in the spring. Think outside, continuing into our elementary schools. So Coalbank, Sweetwood, Bonnan, Dr. Proby, Westminster, Nicholas, Sheridan, Galbraith are all going to be the lucky recipients in grade 4 or 5 classrooms of our infamous Shmena. So Melanie, Shawnee, and Jenna, the team of 3 with Jessica Deacon from Helen Schuler will be visiting all of those schools and offering at least 2 lessons in the spring and 2 lessons in the fall, teen teaching and getting kids outside, weaving in Indigenous ways of knowing. I figured since there really does seem to present a theme in the work that I'm starting to do quite a bit of or support or see in my department. And so I just put in the timeline. I'm going to kind of keep this here. It keeps me honest on deadlines, and it also keeps everyone else kind of aware of what's happening and where things are starting to go or trend. And I thought it'd just be helpful for the board to have this information. Curriculum and instruction, as I mentioned, we've got some new curriculum, just a little, that we're starting to navigate and support our teachers in doing. And yeah, just the final piece, Andrea, I know you mentioned this already, but I think most of the board was at our event yesterday. Super appreciate the support. I think the team really felt very positive about the attendance and the reception and the comments about our little event on the Pathways to Reconciliation. And so thank you very much for being there. And it means a lot both to our students and to our staff, and that we recognize this indeed is a very important week for our Indigenous community and as well for us as mutual partners in Treaty 7.
Excellent. And questions, Jenny?
I just looking at your report, Dave, I wondered about the Indigenous Education Committee and the Anti-Racism, Anti-Oppression Committee. Are these committees that the board could directly be involved with or support in any way? Or is there, as far as I know, we don't sit on these committees, is that right?
No, this is the Indigenous Ed Committee.
No, somebody does, but I didn't get that one. Okay. And then what about the Anti-Racism, Anti-Oppression? Do we have a trustee that sits on that committee?
No, so currently, similar to Positive Spaces, it's an administrative activated committee, and so only administrators currently are on that. It was one that they initiated themselves and wanted to start as a part of, I think, the professional learning that they were doing and recognizing that there was a lot of work that they wanted to do in that regard. And then I understand that there was a little bit of curiosity in the mental health grant that has been written. Of course, there's no news yet. It does say on the grant, year one of the pilot begins October 2022. So I don't like to celebrate too much until I hear the news. In the summertime, because of course we got notification, I think it was like August 15th, so we had to get on it pretty quickly. And the call for the grant proposals really does outline a prevention approach around supporting students' wellness. I think the name Mental Health in Schools Pilot is a bit of a misnomer because, as we know, when students are struggling with mental illness, they really do need to access outside support. When we're looking at our schools and what we can do within our schools and our capacity and our abilities, we really are looking at promotion of wellness and promotion of positive, healthy behaviors. And so in response to a lot of the feedback we received from, I would say primarily our middle schools, but also our high schools, our principals and teachers had indicated some real struggles with digital citizenship, as we have also heard with our school council and parents who connected with me or I've worked with and supported. And so within the proposal, we're looking at an opportunity to try and support the teaching piece of digital education, digital citizenship, and then as well some more social support around coaching and mentoring for students who are encountering and families who are encountering struggles with really managing their child's access use of technology. And so we're really shooting high and trying to secure a teacher and a social worker so they can work as a team and scaffold alongside with our wellness teams and then our teachers, doing team teaching and support and embedding some lessons that mental health capacity building has done an amazing job at starting. And we've heard time and time again, we need more of this work, and really our mental health capacity building cannot do more lessons around digital education. And so we just recognize that it's a bit of a gap right now and we need to do some more work in that regard. And it is a 2-year grant. And so yeah, we're just hopeful that we can get some support in that regard, but we will see, and we will keep on that front.
Questions on that piece for Audit? Seeing none, thank you for your report and all the work that your department is doing. I'm moving on to Mike with Human Resources.
Thank you. So you have the report, obviously, so I'll just hit a few of the highlights. As you can see, lots of onboarding going on in August, which is very, very common for this time of year, just to get ready for the school year. Certainly some professional learning that's going on. I did want to highlight the 5125 banquet. It's the first time that we've done it in a couple of years due to COVID in person, and really want to say thank you to the trustees. You did an excellent job with it. Feedback was great. It really was a really nice evening. And also want to say a big thank you to Carrie for the work that she did to organize it and make sure it just happened seamlessly. So thanks. That was a pretty awesome experience. And I can certainly say that as somebody, that was my first time ever attending it, and it was great. We'll flip over to the second page. We'll talk a little bit about enrollment with the caveat that these numbers are very preliminary. They're changing all the time through September. And that's not anything to be concerned about. That's very, very common. So as you can see, as of the writing of the report, we were up about 401 kids from K to 12 compared to last year. That number's a little bit lower right now. It's probably up about 350. That's very common. What happens is you have kids who are in the system who don't show up, and eventually they're taken out of the system once there's a request for their file. As you know, we are down a little bit in our early childhood learning program. Again, that's something that we certainly anticipated with changes throughout the city and COVID, that sort of thing. In terms of class size, elementary class size, as you can see from the chart, they remain pretty much the same as where they've been. There's a little bit of variation here and there. You know, as you know, as a board, and you'll hear this from me a number of times over the next couple of years, kindergarten and grade 1 are going to be a little challenging the next few years. That's one of the byproducts of the pandemic, because many of our kids haven't been to schools, they're not in early learning programs, so we just don't know who they are and what their needs are, or who's even coming in kindergarten and grade 1. So that causes some challenges for us and forces us to scramble, but I have to say just a huge thank you to all the division personnel, particularly folks at the schools, who they open up the doors and the kiddos come and they get it figured out and they get them sorted out and they're taking care of kids, and then they also have a bunch of things they need to do for us in terms of paperwork and getting things into systems properly and all that. So September's a really hot and busy time, and when you have a growing division like we have that, it's great because it means we're serving more kids, which is exactly what we want to do, but it does create challenges in the system. And you know, folks at the school, they're the people who have to manage all of that stuff, and they do a great job with it, so it's really appreciated. So unless there's any questions, that's it for me.
Craig?
I don't know who's best to answer, but the rolling enrollment, or you know, how we're based on it, is that per person?
The weighted moving average?
Yeah,
Yeah, so it would be, it's an FTE, so for instance,
full-time equivalent,
full-time equivalent, so your kindergarten and your early learning are 0.5.
0.5, so that 2 kids to make 0.1,
Yes,
or 1.0.
that's correct.
Okay, so, but if we go over the 2% growth, they don't give us the full amount of the student, like the grant, or?
No, there's a plan for a special grant for every FTE student over your 2% count at a certain dollar rate. We don't know exactly what that is, because they're still working on the details.
But it wouldn't be funded at the same level as the students below that?
No. It would be like, it's just a little top-up grant.
The other question I have is, in some of our schools, I know that we're getting increased enrollment because of the immigration and refugees and that. Has the government given us extra money for that, or does it just kind of, do we have to apply for it, or do we get extra money?
But it's part of our weighted moving average for refugees and ESL. I believe there was an opportunity if you had a lot of Ukraine that you could apply for some special funding. But I don't believe we've received a lot of Ukraine.
And I guess the follow-up question is, if we have an extra number of a higher increase of refugees in that, then we're not funded anymore. Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Do we still have Tyler on? Just want to make sure he doesn't have any questions. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mike, for your report, and for all the work. I know it's been certainly a busy last couple of months. And moving on, next is our superintendent's report, the board priorities report.
Right, the report is in there for you. I'll just highlight a few things. I'm going to the page with the green on it. You keep scrolling. As was mentioned at the organizational meeting, huge thank you to Southland Transportation as well as Shell Shambashi, Christine Lee, and others who helped organize the first ride event. And we're there, and I think there's some trustees. I don't think there were some trustees there as well, greeting families. And we've also had, Maureen's mentioned the grant put in for mental health. And I want to say, a huge thank you. There was 4 funding grant applications that Instructional Services filled out and had to fill out this fall and announced in late June, July, August to maybe get funding. And so those are huge applications and a lot of work on the part of that department. And, for example, the mental health report required that Maureen confer with and form a partnership with Alberta Health Services, mental health. So that was, and get letters from that was, and of course we have no idea whether we'll get any funding out of that at all. And I know that there's other grants, Hatchway, and some other things that we've had to submit. So I just wanted to say a special thank you to your department who's worked hard through August and September to get those hopefuls in on time. And if we take a look under literacy, oh my goodness, our new literacy lead teacher, Jodie Vepke, has been on the move with the teacher induction program, the new English language and literature curriculum, the Thompson Fennell training, and the new resources going out, as well as the mandatory literacy assessments. And so it's been a very busy time, and I'm really thankful that we've got that support. And the same goes for Michaela Demers, who's been doing our numeracy and helping in the same thing, the new curriculum, the new resources, the new to us numeracy assessment, and making sure that our schools have the support that they need there. And I'm just scanning through the off-campus dual credit. Mark talked about the $50,000. That was one of the grants we were successful. That was written in June that we were successful in getting. So that was good. And of course, pooled our money together with other jurisdictions. And the Zone 6 South Zone school divisions are incredibly collaborative, and to come together to work with Lethbridge College and come up with a really viable program for trades is truly a model and commendable, and a model that really has potential for being scaled province-wide. Our esports program continues to grow, and so certainly, as you know, those of you who have the opportunity at an open house last June, I think, it's and I know for sure if you did have the opportunity to go there, that certainly a tour of the esports over at Outback can be arranged anytime. It's amazing, it's growing, and certainly more schools desiring to access the facility at Bokit. So it's certainly a busy place. Maureen talked about early learning, Indigenous education, a special thank you to, and has been extended to Joel Tailfeathers, our new Indigenous education coordinator, Johnny Bigbold, Jenna Bruce Hutton, Melanie Morrow, who have worked incredibly. The work that they've done for this week has been one month a week to make sure that all the schools have an activity for Path to Reconciliation, and elders were arranged for flag honoring and flag raising and so forth. And if we go down to professional learning, we've got the admin, what we call our professional learning symposium tomorrow and Thursday, and we're really excited to have Garfield Jenny Newman coming, and more work in our Thinking to Learn and Learning to Think. So our Thinking Classrooms focus that we've been doing for 2 years, we've sort of been steadfast in maintaining, building that capacity to create thinking classrooms, and of course, having our administrators and ourselves as role models in the thinking classrooms pedagogy, so that teachers can be embedding that. And actually, it, as you watch teachers with the new curriculum, and I know certainly Lethbridge School Division had much to say about the new curriculum when it came out in terms of not believing that it made us move forward. At some point, you take the curriculum and you let good pedagogy wrestle with that curriculum and turn it into a great program for students, and that's what we're seeing our teachers do. With confidence, with proper resources, and of course with proper professional learning, and they're gifted as amazing teachers in our school division. And we've had a lot of other training going on for staff across the school division. And I just wanted to mention as well our new ESL lead teacher, Carmen Carvello. She's been working incredibly hard as well. It's always fun at the end of August, beginning of September. You see all kinds of families coming into division office with bigger people, little people, medium people, and of course, having really been taken care of, assessed and transitioned into schools, and we have a great team who looks after that for us here. And with that, there's any other things in there, but those are my highlights. If you've got any questions.
Thank you. Craig?
I'd just like to echo that I think it's extremely frustrating for school boards that something as important as mental health, you have to apply for a program. And secondly, if someone took the time to divide the total number of students in Alberta into what the government says is this big influx of money over 3 years, it doesn't work out to a lot of money per kid. I think I did a quick one. It might be $100 or stand corrected on that. But when you think about that and you think about the impact of mental health in schools and in families, that's not a lot of money. And I think we need to hold the government more responsible. And that's something that we need to bring up with our MLAs and with our minister again, is that that's not a lot of money considering the number of kids. So I just go on to thank the administration for taking the time to develop these proposals. I know that it's a little easier in a bigger division versus a small division, but it's still just frustrating the amount of time we have to spend to get some dollars when it should be a priority of the government.
Thanks, Craig. And I think the other piece that's very important for us all to remember is that mental health does not fall on our educators' shoulders. It falls on the shoulders of Alberta Health Services. And it was very difficult to get someone to partner with me on the stakeholder piece of this application because they are so short-staffed and because they quite simply do not have the services and supports in place. So from that executive side, we have shared our concerns with the education sector of the government, but I think it is a bigger piece of a medical crisis and issue. We know that we do have general practitioners coming, as you guys have responded, right? And we know that our most recent and gem of a child psychiatrist now has announced that she will be departing in November, which will lead Lethbridge Fair in child psychiatry. And it's those pieces that are really the mental health concerns that are presenting in our region that flow into our schools that we are ill-equipped to manage. And so for me, I think it is an interministerial conversation that needs to happen at the government level about how Alberta Health Services and education interface, because right now the one-stop shop of our schools being the catch-all for all things medical it does wear out our people. And so I just want to echo that we do really appreciate all the work that our ground level partners in Lethbridge are doing from Alberta Health Services, but they really are fatiguing as well coming out of the pandemic. So thank you.
Thank you, Morag. Thank you, Morag. And just so that you are aware, as Zone Jenny, That's okay. So just so that you're aware, as our South Zone trustees did bring up this exact issue and concern and are proceeding with advocacy as trustees in our zone, and that was brought up to us, so to recognize the issues and challenges for our zone, and the majority of our partner divisions around us that surround us had similar concerns, so we will continue to advocate as well, so we appreciate it. Other questions? Cheryl, if you go on to World Teachers Day.
The annual celebration ends in the board agenda to remind ourselves, trustees and the public, that the October 5th is, since 1994, is to celebrate teachers and the quality education they provide at all levels, really across the world. And so certainly we'll celebrate on the website in different ways, and just as sort of the shout out to all of the great people in our schools who make a difference every day to students. The next item is the calendar of events, and I know that we never fail to get something that, a recommendation of something that we've missed. So certainly if there's something that we missed, if trustees could point that out now, that would be great, so that we can ensure that we've got everything on our calendar.
Great.
Yeah, the October 12th and 13th and 14th is the Public School Boards Association of Alberta's general meeting. And so there'll be a special, on the 12th, it's the Lois Hole speaker presentation. I don't know who's speaking, I can't remember. And then the PD on the 13th and the general meeting on the 14th. So that's just for the board to know that, and I'll be up there as the representative of the board.
Christina.
October 18th at 1 p.m. is our Poverty Intervention Committee meeting in the boardroom.
Andrea.
October 3rd is our Wellness Committee at 1 p.m.
Thank you.
One more. I think we're going to delay the October 5th Policy Advisory Committee based on our ad hoc committee and then the committee of the whole. And I'm talking to Trish and said that until we have that developed, we'll just delay it for a month. We're not prepared to go ahead with that.
And when we get to community conversations, I'll add those pieces. See you further. We're good with that. Excellent. We will keep that updated. It's always one or two that we get added to it. So next we are moving on to our policy review. So we have the anti-racism and anti-oppression policy number 103.1, and this has come back to the board for our third reading. So I would like to actually, I move that the board accept the policy as presented, 103.1, anti-racism and anti-oppression. Third and final reading. With that, I open it up for discussion. Go ahead, Craig.
I'd like to move an amendment to that motion. I would like to delete the words after, I'll just read it. Furthermore, the board acknowledges that racism can be perpetuated by the individual, institution, and systemic level. I think we should have a period after that and delete and is rooted in historical oppression, white supremacy, and colonialism. When I read this, and I've had a lot of time to think over the summer, to me, it's a win-lose policy. When we include those words, we're indicating that certain groups of people within our division have those tendencies. And I don't think we should suppose that they have those tendencies. And I want people in our division to feel that everybody is being treated equally. And that when we add those words, it does indicate to some that we're picking on a group of people. And if we take out those words, it does not change the anti-oppression and anti-racism policy. But it just means that everybody comes under that banner. And that would be the reason I would move an amendment to this, if I'm allowed to.
Okay, so you're wanting to make an amendment to the motion that I have on the
Yes.
table, okay? So if you can please restate the amended motion that you were wanting to make.
I would move that we amend the anti-racism and anti-oppression policy by deleting the words "and is rooted in historical oppression, white supremacy, and colonialism."
So, just for process, so I do not see this as a friendly amendment.
It's not a friendly
Okay.
amendment,
So-
it's an actual amendment to the policy, so you will
Then
need
we
to
just-
vote on the amendment first.
Okay.
And then go back and then vote.
But we can open that to discussion.
Yes, you can
Amendment,
open that
okay.
to discussion.
So we can open up up for discussion, the amendment that is on the floor. Christina?
I would be very much against this amendment. I think those words provide the necessary context for the adoption. I think that the administrators who were significantly involved in putting this policy forward with feedback from, in particular, the young people in their communities, strongly requested that these words be included, and went so far as to significantly workshop the definitions of those words at the request of this board. I will not be voting in favor of those reasons. Thank you.
Other comments on the amendment, Jenny?
I had thoughts on this line as well. My thoughts were somewhat different. My concern with those words, is that we are limiting ourselves so where it says institutional and systemic level and is rooted, we are limiting ourselves to that oppression and racism being rooted only in those three areas. And I don't think that that is accurate, that oppression has been rooted and currently is rooted in more spaces than just this. And so I think where we have the word racism can be perpetuated at the individual, institutional, I think those words would be more appropriate here as well. Can be rooted in historical oppression, white supremacy, and colonialism. Or the words has been, but I prefer the words can be because there are more sources of oppression than just these. And we do ourselves a disservice by limiting our acknowledgement to only three sources of oppression and racism. And we fail to recognize those that have experienced oppression at another source other than those three spaces.
So depending on what happens with the amendment that Craig has made, then you would potentially like to make a different amendment after.
So yeah, I don't know what Craig feels on what I have said, but if he is in agreement, it may be a happy medium where we can keep those words.
It would,
This is not a friendly amendment.
it's different than a friendly amendment, so we would carry forward with the amendment.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we
So
would
this
come
is
back
my
to that.
discussion, I guess, around
Yep.
that.
And that's fine. Thank you, Jenny. Christina?
I'd just like to use my second time speaking, to share some words that we got, from a student, on this particular topic. And I know we don't often bring forward like the specific feedback from, folks that we hear from, because I know that we all hear from many people on all of our topics. But this one was from a student, and I'd just like to share some of their words specifically, because it was about this. So we all got their letter to all trustees, both by email and I believe printed, in August. So dear trustees, it is deeply saddening to me that I must write you this letter. As the trustees of Lethbridge School Division, it is assumed that all of you understand your responsibility to constituents and the students you govern. Therefore, you must act to change the dire situation that is racism in this division, in this district. I'm not asking you to eradicate this problem in one day. I'm simply asking you to review some of the current district policies as there are gaps that need to be filled. Students need to be assured that they are fully protected in all policies that relate to them. In addition to this, there are procedures needed for this upcoming school year. Many incidents have already occurred in this division, with many incidents being handled negligently. The timely release of this policy would reduce negative experiences among students who have come forward about racism. I'm not going to read the whole letter, but they do mention the policy later in the letter, specifically talking about these words, and feel that we actually haven't gone strong enough, which is, I just wanted to make sure that that particular piece of student voice, because I've heard that many times. At least a dozen individual students have mentioned these specific words to me, saying that they're sad to hear that we're debating their use. 12 students in thousands, but they're students whose voices are not often heard at this table, and I just wanted to use my opportunity to bring that forward.
Thank you, Christina. Further comments? Christine?
Yes, I can't support the removal of this sentence. I mean, we're in Reconciliation Week. We acknowledge at every event that there's been historical oppression. We acknowledge at every event that white supremacy has affected the landscape and culture and community and lives of our nation. We acknowledge that colonialism has robbed our Indigenous community of their land. And I cannot support removing these three phrases of truth. And I hear you, Craig, in your concern of when you say it's a win, no win, and you not every person, this doesn't capture every person now. But this policy doesn't capture people as now. It's acknowledging what has happened and where this oppression is coming from. And it is a continual conversation. We're not going to capture absolutely everything. But when I think of the voices of the students and the staff and the families that need to be heard, that have not been heard, that have been affected by racism, something that I have been privileged to have not been oppressed by on a daily level, I cannot sit here and say this makes me uncomfortable. I need to push it aside. We need to, as a board, support our students. We need to, as a board, fight forward for an inclusive, fully inclusive community. And this is one way that we can do it, and it's significant. And hearing the voices of students and staff and community members talking about how significant these words are, I can say and acknowledge that they're significant. I don't feel the soul depth of the significance because I haven't had to face with some of our students face daily, and not just at school, in our community. And so I would not support the change.
Seeing no further, Craig, you'd like to close comments?
Yes. I agree that there's been historical oppression and colonialism. White supremacy is another word that I do not, in this context, I find it difficult. I understand that it has happened in the past, but I think we have to look at, we have an international group of students in our division. Some of them have experienced supremacy of a different, not white supremacy, but of different tribes or clans dominating another group. And so, to me, we've limited. When supremacy happens, it happens because one group, one tribe, or one clan thinks they're better than the other. That doesn't have to be white. We've seen what happened in Rwanda. We've seen what happened in Nigeria. And I just want to make sure that we're clear that we're not in favor of any kind of supremacy in this, and we're not in favor of any kind of oppression coming into our division from outside. But the way it's written, it's looking at just one group of people. And I know historically in Canada, we've not treated the Indigenous people properly. We acknowledge that. We're trying to change that. But I just think we limit ourselves and we really say it's only one group, when there's other groups within there that can cause oppression, racism, and oppression. And that's only my concern. I don't believe in racism. I don't believe in oppression. I'm just concerned with the writing of this thing, that it excludes certain people that think they can then do it while just targeting one group. And that bothers me. So that's my concluding statement.
So with that, we'll move to a motion. If you can just, I can see Tyler on the screen, please. Tyler, can you turn your camera on for us? We can hear you, yeah. No worries. Okay, so with that, those in favor of the motion, the amendment?
We maybe read it back for Tyler, we just joined.
Okay,
I believe
didn't
the
realize
motion to amend policy 103.1 by removing the phrase rooted in historical oppression, white supremacy, and colonialism.
So with that, those in favor of this amendment to the original motion? And those opposed? Tyler, we're just looking.
Tyler, we really can't. Are you opposed? Okay. I don't think you can.
Abstain.
Can't abstain. The motion, so we're dealing with the policy 103.1 anti-racism and oppression. Allison had made a motion to approve the policy for third reading, and then Craig made a motion to actually amend the policy by removing the words is rooted in historical oppression, white supremacy, and colonialism. So that's the motion we're currently dealing with on the floor, is the amendment to that policy. We just took a vote. Are you in favor or opposed of the amendment? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So that has been defeated. So we're back to the original motion, and Jenny.
Do I need to make a motion, or can I open it up to discussion for the idea of, for me, that word is so definitive in order.
Sorry.
I need to make a motion.
In order to speak to it, you need to make a motion to amend the original motion. Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to amend the wording of policy 103.1, anti-racism and anti-oppression, to amend the wording, the word is, to, I don't know which one he is, can be rooted in historical oppression, white supremacy, and colonialism. And my reason for doing so, can I give preamble? Should have given that before.
No, you make the motion and then you give your opening statement.
My opening statement then on this would be, the word is too definitive and too specific. It limits us to racism and oppression being rooted only in these three sources. I think all we have to do is open the news right now to see the oppression happening around the world that is not rooted in necessarily just these three spaces. And we are seeing people oppressed for their identity in other factors, such as their religion or their, whether they are wearing proper clothing or not, things like that. And so I think that as we are striving so hard to recognize all individuals in their unique identities and spaces, that we do a disservice to them when we limit this policy to only three sources of oppression and racism. And that it is important for us to leave room that other people can think that we recognize or potentially would give legitimacy to the type of oppression or racism they have experienced. And so I would like the word is to be interpreted in a way that will allow other people to see themselves within this policy.
So now we open it for further discussion, then you'll have closing comments, okay? So further discussion on this amendment. Craig?
I can live with that one, because it does open it up, it doesn't limit it by the use of the word can. So further down, we can look at it, add other different things to it, but it allows us to say can. I can live with that one.
Further discussion, Christine?
I see I see where you're coming from, Jenny. I feel that changing the word is actually waters down what this is trying to say. And in the first sentence, the board acknowledges that racism exists and the important role that public education serves in reflecting, influencing, and driving positive systemic change. So when we're looking at our systems, when we're driving positive systemic change, when we look at the negative influences and impact of historical oppression, white supremacy, colonialism on our system, I am compelled to keep the word is, because it has impacted. It's impacted curricula, it's impacted structures, and things that we don't know because we can't, because of our biases. And so I would vote to keep is.
Further comments? Seeing none, closing comments?
I appreciate the perspectives shared, and I feel that I adequately articulated my reason for this amendment and would be happy to put it to a vote.
Sounds good. And with that, we will, Tyler, if you can turn your camera on again, sorry. Okay. So those in favor of the amending the policy to change and is rooted to and can be rooted is the amendment. Those in favor of that amendment and those opposed? And that is defeated as well. So we are back to our original motion that is for us to accept the policy for third reading as revised previously. Any further comments? So in closing, I'd like to say that today we as a board have a very important decision to make. As a board, our policies provide the direction for our division, and this policy is the direction our division needs to go in. It is about how we want our division to be seen when it comes to anti-racism and anti-oppression practices. We can't change what has happened before us, but we do have the ability to change what happens next. We have the ability to ensure the foundation is there to change the outcome for our students and our staff. Today, I want to be a part of changing the outcome for our students and staff and feel this policy must move forward today to ensure we make a difference. It is then everyone's responsibility to make sure that not only do we have a policy that supports our marginalized students, but we also continue to ensure we make our actions support this important policy. So with that, I'd like to go to a vote. Those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So next is our locally developed courses. I'm just going to get back to my agenda. And that's Warwick.
Just 1 second, I'm just getting to. There we go. What's neat about the courses that we now get from Alberta Ed that need approval, they put them in a nice little chart for us, so it helps us in the approval process. So yes, indeed, we do have 3 recommendations. As you can see, we've got Film and Media Art 15, 3 and 5 credit, film and media art 25, 3 and 5 credit, and film and media art 35, 3 and 5 credit, that we need approval on.
Excellent, thank you. So at this point, go ahead, Christine.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the use of Film and Media Art 15, LDC 1092 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2025 to schools to enhance program offerings to students.
Any discussion? Those in favor? And that's carried. Greg, you were wanting to do it?
That the Board of Trustees approve the use of Film and Media 25 LDC 2092 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2025 to schools to enhance programming offerings to students.
Thank you. Any discussion? Those in favor? And that's carried. And then the last one, Christine.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the use of Film and Media Art 35, LDC 3092 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2025 to schools to enhance program offerings to students.
Any discussion? Those in favor? Jenny? Perfect, and that's carried as well. Thank you, Maureen, for bringing those forward. And next, we had an amendment to our agenda to add 8.3 compensation. Christina?
So I'd just like to say that the board, I'm sure I speak on behalf of the board, that we deeply appreciate and value the work of all of our education workers throughout our division. And we do have responsibility with non-union employees to make a direct decision here at the board. And so I'd like to move that effective September 1st, 2022, the board offer a 1.75% salary increase to division employees who are not members of a union authorized to collectively bargain on their behalf. I would also like to add that at the request of Executive Council, this increase would not apply to members of the Executive Council at this time.
Thank you. And discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? And those opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Next, we move on to one of the great things of our board's agenda package is our division highlights. And remind everyone if we can keep those to 2 or 3 so that we're not hearing about, we have amazing meetings that we all attend, but if we can keep those to 2 or 3, that'd be great. And I'll look to see who would like to go first. Christine, go ahead.
I'd love to go first. Well, my highlight to kick off the year really was just how this year started. Everything went smoothly, and I think that just the excitement of staff, the excitement of students, and just the difference from the past 2 years, honestly, from staff clearly having their time, their holiday time, their rest time, not being on call over the summer, not coming back into limiting protocol. So that was just exciting to be connecting with staff and hearing about their school startup. And also we had our Indigenous flag raising yesterday here to kick off Reconciliation Week. And so it was just really wonderful to be part of this event where our division and our community is just going to be mindful and intentional of the pathway forward and how we can each contribute and grow in our steps to reconciliation.
Well, thanks for sharing, Christine. And Jenny?
I attended the city's track meet for the schools, and I was there for my own daughter, but was able to attend. And I was watching these kids run, and runs already make me emotional for some reason. Like, people start running, and I start crying, and it's nothing, it's weird, but I watched these kids run, and I was cheering on these kids I didn't know, and I watched this little girl, and she was from Wilson, and she looked ahead of her at one of her teammates wearing the same penny as her. And the girl ahead of her had slowed to a walk, and she called ahead. She said, "Catherine, you got this." And the little girl started running again. And I thought, that is so neat that this girl who is behind her is not competing against her. She is cheering her on. And she is feeling that camaraderie with her. And I watched these kids of these other schools and these other grades cheering each other on, and that unity. And my daughter passed through the finish line, and she came running up and she said, and they had blown out the sprinklers. The city blew out the sprinklers the day before, so they were running through swamps and slipping and covered in mud. She had mud to her head. And I said, "Oh, Edie, you're so muddy." And she said, "Mom, I was kicking the back of my shins trying to get the mud off, and this student behind me that looked at my name tag, and she thought I was starting to walk, and she said, 'Eden, you can do it, keep running.'" And this was somebody who wasn't her team, didn't know her, had to read her name tag to cheer her on. And she said, "That was really neat, and it helped me." And I just thought, how neat that these are the kids of our division. That these are the kids of our division cheering each other on, hoping for the best in each other, that above competition and self-performance, they see each other. And so I thought, that really embodies for me what we're doing here and who we're doing it for.
For sure, Jenny. Andrea?
I'm happy that I've touched base with my former school, and I got to attend Chapel Emmanuel Christian Elementary School, and I love taking part in their action songs. I love seeing sign language used in school. I think that's so important. And I was honored yesterday to be at the halfway reconciliation and flag raising. I love listening to the elder and hearing the drumming, and get my orange rock, or as I was told, the orange rock chose me. And so I'll be happy to go on Thursday.
I've already attended Galbraith and Westminster School Council. And we meet the teacher at Galbraith. And I'll just say that anyone that teaches on the top floor at Galbraith is going to be extremely fit. I almost was out of breath by the time I got up there. I'll admit.
There is an elevator.
I'm too proud to take an elevator. But it was great to meet the teacher, and also Westminster is really happy because we have more kids, and that's exciting to know. And I also stopped in to visit at Senator Joyce Fairburn, and unfortunately we had something going on at the same time as they had a special guest come in, and their school council brought someone in to talk about digital citizenship. And they bought books, and they gave me one about, it's called Globe, and it's an author talking about digital citizenship and helping the parents navigate that too. So had a good welcome in all three schools, and so we're well on the way.
Excellent. Tyler? Excellent. Christina?
I had a great time at the breakfast. I got the good grill. Someone switched me grills off the bad grill, so I take no credit. But it was, my highlight really is just that beginning of school spirit. I the same day, like, I just think about the first day of school and I cry. I'm like, everyone send me your, first day of school pictures. I want to see everyone's house. I love it. And just the amount of work that goes into making the first day possible. I know that certainly we often see the summer as a time of rest, but it's also a time of a lot of work to get those so that first day ready. So in particular, thank you, Christine, to your huge department of all the work that happens over the summer to make sure the facilities are ready and all of the moving pieces are prepared so that when the moving pieces of tiny hands come back into the classroom, that everything's ready. And the first ride event was really a delight. Transportation is something that's very near and dear to my heart, and so helping families feel more comfortable with safe ways to school was really meaningful. Yeah, the pancake breakfast was great, and visiting all the schools, our new liaison schools, was delightful. I didn't make it to Lakey, unfortunately, because I wasn't feeling well. But they did inspire me to take up my longboard again because they have a longboard club and I'm trying to be cool like them. So no broken bones yet.
That's awesome. Do we get to like watch a video of that? And for me, I had like a big long list. I'm like, I gotta listen to my words. I can't like go over all of them. So it's been a great start to the year, getting out to some of the barbecues, welcome back barbecues, and just meeting and engaging with families, talking about how amazing our schools are and how amazing the starts of the year have gone. And then to be able to go to the school councils after you had conversations, encouraging parents about the importance of their voice and them coming to school councils and go to the school council meetings and they're there. Like, it's just been great and amazing, and just so grateful for our staff and our students and our families coming back this year to somewhat regular year and just getting everything up and going and hearing about football and our, the competitions and everything. And it's just so great. Also, lots of great conversation from parents in regards to busing this year and how awesome the start of those busing schedules have gone, and that they're on time or short amounts of time that they're not there on time. So lots of kudos out to Southland, as well as our staff and our teachers and our families. So great for that. And then today I had the honor of going to Fleetwood Baden for the blessing of their flag. And it was just amazing to be able to be a part of that and to see the students learning so much about Indigenous education and truth and reconciliation. It was wonderful to be a part of that. So lots of highlights, and wonderful to hear from all of you your highlights. So with that, we'll move into our board chair report. And at this time, we go on to our committees, the annual reports. And the first one is our board standing committee. So our board audit committee. Let's scroll down. And that is Tyler. Perfect. Any questions? None. Do we need to?
Yeah, there should be. You need to approve the terms of reference. You probably should do them individually in case there's a requirement, and then in time you move them.
Okay. Sounds good. So we have the board audit committee terms of reference that we need a motion to pass. Craig.
I'll go ahead, Tyler.
What time?
Go ahead, Tyler. So our superintendent has advised us that we don't do these do each of them at the meeting.
Yeah, we've never done, they're for information, right? They're for information.
So with that, we appreciate you starting to make that motion, and we accept this as information. So thank you, Tyler. And then our next one is board budget committee report. And we have that from Christina.
Yeah, the report is included. A special thanks to Avis in assisting the preparation of that, and thanks to Christina and Avis for their work in making sure that the whole board was very engaged in this committee last year, given our learning about it.
Thank you, Christina. Any questions? Thank you very much for that. Next one is our community engagement committee. Jenny.
Again, information is there. If I have omitted anything pertinent or done anything incorrectly, I'm looking for advice. And this is the first time I've ever done an annual committee review or report. So thank you otherwise. information there.
I'm not seeing any questions or comments, so thank you very much for that. Next is our Division Wellness Committee report.
Andrew, Danny and I really enjoyed being on this committee, supported so well by Morag and Christine Peters. And also my first time writing one, and I so apologize that I did not write the committee members down. So I'm going to thank them right now. So I'd like to thank Danny, Morag, Mike Nightingale, Bob White from Senator Peterson, Jamie Bach from Chinook, Ali Swenson from Tweed Bottom, James from Churchill, Shelley David and Gilbert Patterson, Victoria Morley, Edna M, Karen Rupp, Kathy Mundell, and thank her, she moved on, and I'll have to end day. And thanks to Deanna Presley Robert and Courtney up from Alberta Health Services and Christina Peters. I promise that I will amend that report and get that in properly. And just looking forward to continuing this important work. And if there's any questions from the report, please let me know.
I'm not seeing any questions, so thank you. So next we have our Facilities Committee, and that's Tyler. I'm not seeing any questions for that. Next is our Indigenous Education Committee.
Yeah, the report is there if you have any questions, and we've just been going through our terms of reference as a committee and just making sure that the language is mindful of our Indigenous community. It's here before you. If you have any questions.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any questions. So next is Policy Advisory Committee. Craig.
There. I guess that's, yeah.
Can you turn your mic on, please?
Oh, yeah. You can read it for the year-end report. So.
Thank you. Not seeing any. Go ahead, Craig.
Well, I was just going to add that. Do I talk about it right now because it's concerning the Policy Advisory Committee? But because of our ad hoc committee and looking at our policies, that we're delaying the meeting, our first meeting, until the board at a committee of the whole and has decided how we want to progress with policies as a board. And so we've just delayed the first meeting or first two meetings, depending on how October 11th goes.
Okay, so this is together with the Policy Advisory Committee that.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, that would be with the Policy Advisory Committee. That because we're looking at what we're going to do, that it would be a waste. To me, let's not bring people in to talk about something that could be changed during the year until we decide how we want to proceed with it.
Okay, so maybe at our Policy Review Committee, we could discuss that further as well.
Right.
Sounds good. Any questions? Craig, on that? Seeing none, Poverty Intervention Committee.
Yep, committee report and terms of reference are included. A couple little highlights. The committee, through Deanna Roberts' team, provided over 200 weekend and more WAM bags this year, as well as $35 gift cards for fresh items as part of that. There was also an increase in requests for clothing, WAM, winter supplies, and miscellaneous. All economic requests were up from the previous 2 years, and I would anticipate it will see a similar trend as families continue to face a significant hardship. And so just a great deal of thanks to all of the participants of this committee, but also a very significant thank you to all of the work happening at the school site level. This committee captures, honestly, a sliver of the work that happens every day to combat poverty for your young people and their families in our division. So very special thanks at the school level as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Christina? Seeing none, our next is our School Boundary Alignment Committee. So this is a new committee. Terms of reference are there, and we'll be meeting soon with that committee. Any questions on the terms of reference? Craig?
Oh, I guess, do we need to vote on the terms of reference?
We already did that
We did
organization.
that, the organization.
Yeah.
All right.
And Spirit of 51 committee. Tyler? Yeah. Thanks, Tyler. Any questions for Tyler? Seeing none. Next, and last is the Superintendent Evaluation Committee. So as a board, as per policy, we completed the superintendent evaluation, and as a committee going forward this year, we'll take a look at the terms of reference and ensure that they match the practice of what we had done and what our wishes are going forward. So we'll take a look at that as a committee in the next year. Are there any questions? No? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to community conversations. So for community conversations, we are planning our dates. So I have information for this next couple. So the first thing is that our November one is set. So our set in terms of date, time, and location. So the November one is going to be November 8th from 10 o'clock till 11:30. And it's at Lethbridge Fish and Game, which is a nice little community building on our south side. And it's a great space for families that have little kids and they want to bring them with them to come and have conversation with trustees. And Lethbridge Fish and Game was happy to work together with the school division to provide that space to us for November 8th from 10 to 11:30. For our October one, so it might seem a little bit backwards, but I have not received confirmation of location, but it is going to be October 13th, 6:30 to 8. So it's a Thursday evening for that one. And I'm just waiting for final confirmation on location, but I'll get that to Garrett as soon as we have that. Any questions or comments on community conversations? Okay. So next is PSBA. Craig.
Yes, I've been to one meeting, and I can't remember, it was in the summertime. Part of the meeting was dealt in looking at our frame of reference for the public school board, vision, mission, all that stuff, and had a good discussion, and it was well brought forward. There was lots of good ideas, and they're starting to revamp things and to maybe reduce the amount of wordage that they used. They also announced they have an office space, which is close to the Delta Doubletree Inn, which is the old Mayfield. So it's not very far from there, and that boards can use the space if they want for a meeting if everybody's out there. And then in October, we're having the annual general meeting, and I got actually put on the sign on the board to look at the compensation review of the president, vice president, and that, which should be happening over the next little while. And then I know that Andrea applied, I did it, and Allison. We were treated to a wonderful presentation last Friday on bias by Franklin Covey. And let me tell you, it was well worth it. It was one of the best presentations I've had. It really showed us, and I took a lot of notes, which is surprising for me, but that bias exists in all of us, and it can be good or bad. And how do we deal with bias? How do we change bias? And how do we deal? So it was very good. They talked about a number of things, and I'm not sure if we didn't get a word back from Troy, but I'm hoping that they were able to keep it and then let some of the other people in our division look at it. Some of the divisions like Grassland had everybody there, including their administration team. So very good presentation. And for the value, $250 per school board, you can't get that from Franklin Covey at that price by yourself. So wonderful presentation. If Andrew would like to maybe make a comment, or Allison on that, but I thought it was a great presentation.
I really enjoyed it, and when we went into breakout rooms, it was nice to have that individual touch with people from like around the province and to hear how it affected them. And yes, it was well worth it.
And I would echo the same comments, just it was being able to go into the breakout rooms and discuss each topic and how you can reflect on your own life, how each of those pieces applied. And I'd just like to add, I know that Tyler was on for a portion of it as well. I don't know how much he was able to be on, but I'm quite certain you were on, correct, Tyler? Yeah, so he was on for a bit as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's great. Any questions for Craig from PSBA? Okay. So next on our agenda is Economic Development Lethbridge. So it's through the summer, we don't meet, except for when there's certain things that come up. But we had our meeting last week and we had two presentations that were great opportunities that I think definitely when we look at our education sector and the pieces that applies to us. So we had a presentation from the Lethbridge Public Library, and they came and spoke to us in regards to the work and the plans that they are doing and looking at their next 5 years and coming up with their plans, and just really focused on their 5-year goals, looking at the library as a gathering place and a hub, and really looking at it being a model of welcoming and inclusive spaces, reflecting on the fact that the community has opportunities to build multiple literacy skills. So when we look at our families and all the work that we're doing as a division in literacy, I just really see lots of that. As a board, we're supposed to look at where partnerships can exist and how we can work together and really be promoting what's happening in our community. And I think that the library is a great opportunity for us to be making those partnerships, and not in terms of that we need to have an official partnership, but just recognizing that they do play an important role in our community, and they play an important role in our students and our family lives. And just hearing some of the activities, so they had like a Lethbridge Comic-Con, where they had students and youth and young adults come together, where a lot of people from Lethbridge go to Calgary. It was really bringing that opportunity here locally. They also bring families together to do craft nights and young adults to come to do crafts, not just little kids, and just really promoting all of the aspects of a library are not what we traditionally think of as a library. So it was a great presentation, and they looked at how can the Lethbridge Public Library contribute to the workforce of the future and economic diversity of Lethbridge. So it really is looking at how do we use the library for our students? How do we use, and obviously this was for the business community that the presentation was made, but how do we incorporate that as a division and work towards those same and common goals? And then in addition to that, we had Fifth on Fifth Youth Services came and made a presentation, and they spoke about work experience as well as a program called First, facilitating investment for red seal trades. So just really talking about the grant money that is available. I know that we do a lot of work for our students in terms of looking at the trades and providing work experience, and just really reiterating the work experience is for youth age 15 to 30. So looking at how we can provide reimbursement they have the funds to provide reimbursement for employers for 360 hours in the first 12 weeks of employment. So just really looking again, that partnership piece of us ensuring that we're also promoting the work of Fifth on Fifth when you're out talking with families. And then just in relation to economic development and some of the work that they do. So they get a lot of their funding from the city of Lethbridge. So this last Monday, they were presenting to the city on the work that they are doing and the funds that they need to continue operating the way that they are. And one of the pieces that they're talking about is, and what it applies to our youth, is that they're looking at what tech opportunities are there to keep our youth in our city. And when we look at keeping our youth here, we want them to stay in our community. And what are we doing? And economic development does a lot of work to keep our students here. And it's really important that we continue the work that we're doing together with economic development Lethbridge. With that, are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We'll move on to the Indigenous Education Committee, and that report is in your package.
Okay. All right, we had our first meeting on September 21st. It was Joel Tailfeather's inaugural event, and he's going to do incredibly amazing things in our division. He is charismatic and thoughtful, and as he was moving us through the meeting and as he's engaging in conversation, it really stood out to me how much he's an educator. He's a humble teacher of ways of knowing, and he's approachable, and he just makes people welcome. He makes me, I can't do that, but he makes me feel welcome to ask questions. And so I'm really excited for the direction that he's envisioning our division moving in, and already the steps he's taken to build community and build momentum in that direction. So it was a great first meeting. Some things to highlight, the reports in front of you. I wrote Jenna Jewison. I should have wrote Jenna Brucehead, so my apologies to Jenna for that. And trustees, I'm sure you have seen what I have volunteered on behalf of you. Our Indigenous educator teacher reps each have, for elementary, middle school, and high school, send out a monthly newsletter. And so I thought, how fantastic would it be for board members to receive these newsletters? And in them, they showcase events to be aware of, resources, as well as Blackfoot words and understanding. So I thought it would just be another layer of learning for us as board members. The Blackfoot flag raising ceremony has been scheduled for March 21st, 2023. You can put that in your calendars, and that is being planned for in the spring. And data is being collected for the assurance plan review, and that should be in by October. And one thing I'm really excited for is the Inclusion and Wellness Student Forum is taking place on November 16th, and that will include grades 8 to 12 students. And it stems from the question of have we truly harnessed student voice in our division. So I'm really excited for the work that Morag and her team are doing to just open the doors to showcasing the value and importance of student voice in our division and in their own education. And so if you have any questions, I would love to answer them for you.
Let's go into questions for Christine. Such great work that the committee is doing, and great to have that March 21st date as well. Thank you. Craig.
I forgot to bring this up, but the audit committee met yesterday.
Okay, so that'll go on our next report then.
Yeah, you need to get the report.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. So next in your board package is correspondence received. Are there any questions on the correspondence that was received by our division?
Sorry, can I just make a comment?
Yep.
Just by the way, you don't normally see the land use bylaw amendment letters. Those, not sure why that's in the board package. Those, I get like several a year. So every time they do an amendment to where somebody wants to amend, for instance, a subdivision to either move the density around or a new application, I get those. So Yeah, and that, yeah, it's not something you really see, just so you know that Daniel and I get them, and we look at them, it's very helpful for me if I'm looking at growth, like whenever they amend, you know, an area that I'm concerned about growth, and they make it high density, I get a little concerned, but, other than that, there's stuff that we see, so just wanted to point that out to you.
Excellent. And then correspondence sent. Great.
Yeah, just on the Alberta School Council Association, I agree with the letter and the fact that now school councils get an X amount of dollars, the division gets X amount of dollars, they pass it on to the school council. Sometimes that's limiting to what they can do. And I know that I promised Fleetwood Bottom that I would rate, but it comes under this anyway. Some of the schools are trying to develop a little library for parents. And I would just throw this out that we can discuss at a later date, but maybe as a division, we could develop a library in here that parents could pick up books that they can read about parenting and stuff like that. That's what these other school counselors are doing, but sometimes they're limited in their money. And it might be a good idea if we kind of collect things here and then send out to schools that the parents could, like a lending library, but that can be discussed at a later date.
Yeah, we do have the Curriculum Resource Center that has the ability to do some of that. So, yeah.
Okay, so we can discuss that in October.
And I think that just having spoken about Lethbridge Public Library, I think that we can really look towards what resources that they have and really using the resources within our community and those partnerships that we have that we can get families to access those resources as well, and the schools that do have those resources.
Especially those people that are new to Lethbridge and aren't familiar with all of the things. So anything we can do to help parents, and their kids really help them.
For sure. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our formal regular meeting. We do have public forum that what we're going to do is move into camera because we did have a few items that we still needed to address, and then we'll come back out at 5 o'clock just to confirm if there's anything for public forum or not. At this time, I would like to publicly acknowledge and thank Leanne for the important job that she has continuously done for us over the years and for her coming back. This is her official last board meeting. And I did invite her at the beginning so that she can come back to any of our board meetings, that we always have space and we have wonderful treats. And we would love to have her come back and join us. So with that, I'd certainly like to give her a round of applause. So thank you. And thank you for being able to come back and help Kristen get her feet wet and going on everything. So we appreciate that. So with that, I need a motion to move into camera.
Just before we move into camera, I'd like to welcome Christine here as,
Kristen?
Kristen, there's too many. Anyway, I'd like to welcome her as our, yeah, someone's gonna ask, as our new admin assistant or executive assistant to the board and to the superintendent.
Thank you, Kristen. Okay, so a motion to move into camera. I saw Christine Light. Once we go into camera. Oh, yep. So those in favor? We'll go into camera. Thank you.